The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. Representatives from dozens of alien species rushed to their seats, their faces showing fear and worry. The Great Hall buzzed with nervous chatter in hundreds of different languages. Admiral Veltara of the bird-like Altarians stood at the center podium. Her colorful feathers were dull with stress as she activated the holographic display. A massive star map appeared, showing the outer rim territories in flashing red. "The Vorthon hegemony has given us 7 days," she announced, her voice cracking slightly. "Surrender the border worlds or face complete destruction." Gasps filled the chamber. The Vorthons were known throughout the galaxy as the most ruthless military force ever seen. They had conquered 47 star systems without a single defeat. Their fleets numbered in the millions, and their weapons could crack planets in half. General Morquette of the Crystalline Federation rose from his seat. His silicon-based body chimed like broken glass as he moved. "How many ships do they bring against us?" 2,000 warships, Veltara replied. "Including their flagship, the Death's Crown." The chamber fell silent. Even combined, all the Council's species could barely muster 800 vessels. Most were exploration ships or cargo haulers, hastily fitted with weapons. Against the Vorthons, they might as well throw rocks. "We must send out calls for help," suggested Ambassador Kethron of the Peaceful Zenith Collective. "Every species in the galaxy must know of this threat." "Who would help us?" asked Captain Yilmoth of the Aquatic Depths Dwellers. "The Andromedans are too far away. The core worlds have their own problems. Who else has the ships to make a difference?" An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Then a junior aide whispered something that made everyone turn. "The humans." The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Humans were relatively new to galactic politics. They had only made contact 50 years ago and had been largely ignored by the major powers. Their territory was small, their population modest, by galactic standards. "The humans have a fleet," the aide continued nervously. "Intelligence reports suggest they have been building warships for decades." Admiral Veltara's feathers ruffled with uncertainty. "How many ships?" "We're not sure. They don't share their military information. But satellite scans of their shipyards show significant activity." The Council voted quickly. They would send distress calls to every known civilization, including the humans. It was their only hope. Meanwhile, in a quiet sector of space, Captain Yun Ki walked through the corridors of the UES Thunderstorm. The ship was humanity's newest and most advanced vessel, though few outside Earth Command knew just how advanced. It really was. The Thunderstorm didn't look like other starships. Where alien vessels were smooth and artistic, the human ship was all sharp angles and brutal functionality. Every surface seemed designed for war. Weapon ports lined the hull like the teeth of some massive predator. Hyun Ki reached the bridge. Just as the communication officer, Lieutenant Jae Won, turned toward him. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. It's marked as an emergency distress call." "Put it through to my ready room," Hyun Ki ordered. The message was desperate and pleading. The Council representatives explained. The Vorthon threat showed tactical data of the enemy fleet and begged for any military assistance humanity could provide. They needed every ship, every weapon, every advantage they could get. Yun Ki forwarded the message to Earth Command and waited. The response came back within an hour, directly from Admiral Bo-Ra herself. Back on Earth, Admiral Bo-Ra sat in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The room was filled with tactical displays showing ship positions throughout human space. Her senior staff stood around the central holotable, studying the alien request. "They want our entire fleet," reported Commander Tae-ho, Bo-Ra's chief of staff. "Every capital ship, every cruiser, every destroyer we have." "What's our current strength?" Bo-Ra asked. 43 major vessels ready for deep space operations," replied Captain Mi-sun from the Naval Intelligence Division. "But most are on patrol or training missions. It would take weeks to gather them all." Bo-Ra studied the tactical data from the alien message. The Vorthon fleet was impressive by galactic standards. 2,000 ships with advanced weapons and shields. Any conventional force would be overwhelmed, but humans didn't fight conventional wars. "Admiral," asked Commander Tae-ho, "what are your orders?" Bo-Ra looked at her staff. These people understood what humanity had learned through thousands of years of warfare. Every conflict, from ancient battles with swords and spears to the devastating wars of the atomic age, had taught them the same lesson. Victory didn't go to the largest army. It went to the smartest one. "Send the thunderstorm," she said calmly. "Ma'am?" Commander Tejo looked confused. "Just one ship?" "Just one ship." Captain Mi-sun frowned. "Admiral, with respect, the aliens are requesting our full military support. One vessel might seem like an insult." Bora smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Captain, how long did it take our ancestors to perfect the art of war?" 10,000 years, ma'am. From the first stone axe to relativistic weapons." "And how long have these alien species been fighting?" Mi-sun checked her data pad. "Most have been spacefaring for only a few centuries. The Altarians have the longest military tradition at about 800 years. "Children playing with toys," Bora said quietly. "Send Captain Hyun-ki my compliments and tell him he has full operational authority. Rules of engagement are at his discretion." The message reached the thunderstorm within minutes. Captain Hyun-ki read it twice, then called his senior officers to the bridge. Lieutenant Sunja, his tactical officer, arrived first. She was young but had graduated top of her class from the Naval War College. Behind her came Chief Mi-young, the navigator, and Ensign Dong-min from weapons control. "We have our orders," Hyun-ki announced. "We're going to assist the Galactic Council against the Vorthon fleet." "What's our support?" asked Lieutenant Sunja. "We are the support." The bridge fell silent. They all understood what that meant. 43 years of peace had made the galaxy forget what humans were capable of. The aliens saw Earth as just another minor civilization, useful for trade but irrelevant in military matters. They were about to learn otherwise. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," Hyun-ki ordered. "Maximum speed. And Lieutenant Sunja?" "Yes, sir. Begin combat preparations. Full war configuration." "All weapons systems, sir?" Captain Hyun-ki looked out at the stars rushing past the view screen. Somewhere out there, 2,000 enemy ships waited, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Behind them cowered 17 alien civilizations who had never learned the hard lessons that shaped humanity. "All weapons systems," he confirmed. The UES Thunderstorm jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it 10,000 years of human military evolution. The galaxy was about to discover why Earth had sent only one ship. It was all they needed. The alien coalition fleet gathered in the Kepler 442 system looked impressive from a distance. 800 ships from 17 different species formed a defensive line near the fourth planet. Their hulls gleamed in the light of the systems, twin suns, and their weapons charged with deadly energy. But Admiral Veltara knew the truth. Her flagship, Harmony of Spheres, was the largest vessel in the fleet, and it was barely half the size of a Vorthon cruiser. Most of the ships around her were cargo vessels fitted with mining lasers or exploration ships carrying torpedo tubes, meant for clearing asteroids. "Status report," she called to her bridge crew. "All ships report ready, Admiral," replied her communications officer. "The Crystalline Federation vessels are providing shield support. The depth dwellers have positioned their submarines for surprise attacks." Veltara nodded, though her heart wasn't in it. Surprise attacks and clever tactics might work against pirates or raiders. Against the Vorthon war machine, they would be like children throwing stones at a mountain. "Any word from our distress calls?" she asked. "Negative responses from the Andromedans and the core worlds, ma'am. They're too far away to help in time. The neutral zone powers are staying out of it. And the humans?" The communications officer checked his displays. "They responded, Admiral. They're sending military assistance." A spark of hope flickered in Veltara's chest. "How many ships?" "The message says one vessel, ma'am. The UES Thunderstorm." The hope died instantly. Veltara's feathers drooped with disappointment. "One ship? Did we explain the size of the threat we're facing?" "Yes, ma'am. We sent them all our intelligence data on the Vorthon fleet." General Morquette's voice crackled over the communication system from his ship nearby. Perhaps the humans misunderstood. "The message? One ship against 2,000 seems like a translation error." Veltara wanted to believe that, but the human response had been clear and direct. They were sending one vessel to help defend against the greatest military force in galactic history. Either they were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. 3 hours later, the UES Thunderstorm dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The alien commanders gathered on Admiral Veltara's bridge to get their first look at humanity's contribution to the battle. They were not impressed. The human ship was ugly by galactic standards. Where alien vessels curved and flowed like works of art, the Thunderstorm was all brutal angles and harsh edges. It looked like someone had taken a weapons factory and taught it to fly. "That's their warship?" asked Captain Yilmoth, his aquatic suit bubbling with nervous water circulation. "It looks like a cargo hauler with guns welded to the sides." "Scans show heavy armor and multiple weapon systems," reported Veltara's tactical officer. "But it's still just one ship, Admiral." The AO human vessel approached the alien fleet slowly, broadcasting identification codes. Admiral Veltara ordered it to dock with her flagship so they could meet face-to-face. Captain Hyun Ki beamed aboard with his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sunja. The two humans looked remarkably calm for people about to face impossible odds. They wore simple gray uniforms with minimal decoration, very different from the elaborate costumes favored by most alien officers. "Captain Hyun Ki," Admiral Veltara began, "we appreciate your government's willingness to help, but I think there may have been a misunderstanding about the scope of this threat." She activated the holographic display, showing the tactical situation. The Vorthon fleet was massive, their ships bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. Their formation was perfect, their approach calculated to maximize devastation. 2,000 ships, Captain, General Morcat added, his crystalline body chiming with stress. "Each one larger and more powerful than anything in our combined fleet. Surely your government didn't understand the full situation when they sent just one vessel?" Hyun Ki studied the display quietly. His expression never changed as he examined the enemy fleet composition, their weapon loadouts, their shield configurations. Lieutenant Sunja took notes on a simple data pad. "The War Marshal Kethvar commands from the flagship Death's Crown," continued Admiral Veltara. "That ship alone has more firepower than our entire defense force. Their shields can absorb direct hits from planet-killer weapons," added Captain Yilmoth. "Their armor is made from collapsed matter. Their engines can push them to speeds that break the laws of physics." The alien commanders waited for Captain Hyun Ki to show some sign of concern, some recognition of the hopeless nature of their situation. Instead, he simply nodded and asked one question. "Where are they now?" Admiral Veltara blinked in confusion. "Captain, I don't think you understand. This isn't a minor border skirmish. The Vorthons have never been defeated. They don't take prisoners, they don't negotiate, they don't show mercy. They will destroy every ship, every station, every populated world in this sector." "With respect, ma'am," Lieutenant Sunja said quietly, "we understood the briefing perfectly." "Then why did your people send only one ship?" demanded General Morket. "Do they expect us to believe that one human vessel can do what 800 allied ships cannot?" Captain Hyun Ki looked around at the gathered alien officers. Their faces showed a mixture of desperation and confusion. These were people who had never known true war, never faced an enemy that sought complete annihilation. "General," he said calmly, "my people didn't send one ship because they misunderstood the threat. They sent one ship because they understood it completely." Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Vorthon fleet had arrived. The enemy formation dropped out of hyperspace like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 2,000 ships in perfect order, their hulls black as space itself, their weapons already charging with deadly energy. The alien commanders rushed to the windows to stare at the approaching armada. It was larger than anything they had ever seen, more terrifying than their worst nightmares. Ship after ship materialized from hyperspace until they filled the entire visible sky. Admiral Veltara felt her legs go weak. "By the ancestors," she whispered. "How can we fight that?" War Marshal Kethvar's voice boomed across all frequencies, transmitted from the massive flagship at the center of the formation. "Pathetic insects of the rim worlds, you have one standard hour to surrender unconditionally. Lay down your weapons, power down your shields, and prepare to be processed. Any resistance will result in the complete sterilization of this system and every world you call home." The alien officers looked at each other with growing panic. Some began suggesting immediate surrender. Others talked about scattered retreat to save what ships they could. A few spoke of desperate last stands that might at least send a message to the rest of the galaxy. Through it all, Captain Yun Ki stood quietly by the window, studying the Vorthin formation with professional interest. Lieutenant Sunja made more notes on her datapad. "Captain," Admiral Velterra said urgently, "you need to get your ship out of here. There's no shame in retreat when facing impossible odds. Save your crew while you still can." Yun Ki turned from the window with what might have been a smile. "Admiral, I appreciate your concern for my people, but we came here to do a job." "What? Job? This is suicide!" "Lieutenant Sunja, please signal the thunderstorm. Tell them to begin charging the main batteries." Sunja nodded calmly. "Yes, sir. Which configuration should they use?" Captain Hyun Ki looked out at the massive enemy fleet, 2,000 ships strong, confident in their overwhelming power. War Marshal Kethvar probably expected the aliens to surrender or scatter. He had never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. That was about to change. "All of them," Hyun Ki said simply. The alien commanders stared at him as if he had lost his mind. One human ship against 2,000 Vorthon warships. It was beyond hopeless. It was insane. But as they watched, something strange happened. The UES Thunderstorm didn't retreat or power down its weapons. Instead, it began moving forward, accelerating directly toward the enemy formation. Lieutenant Sunja's communicator chirped softly. She listened for a moment, then looked up at her captain. "Sir, the Thunderstorm reports all systems ready. They're requesting permission to engage." Admiral Velterra grabbed Hyun Ki's arm desperately. "Captain, please. You don't have to throw your life away." Hyun Ki gently removed her hand from his sleeve. "Admiral, humans don't throw their lives away in battle. We throw away other people's lives." He activated his communicator. "Thunderstorm, this is Captain Hyun Ki. You are cleared to engage the enemy. Show them what 10,000 years of human warfare looks like." The response came back immediately, calm and professional. "Understood, Captain. Beginning attack run. All batteries report ready to fire." Far below them, the UES Thunderstorm raced toward the Vorthon fleet like a shark swimming toward a school of fish. War Marshal Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship Death's Crown, watching the tactical displays with growing amusement. In 47 conquered systems, he had never seen such a pathetic defense. 800 allied ships cowering behind, a small planet, and one lone vessel approaching his massive fleet. "Signal the human ship," he ordered his communications officer, Rethnol. "Tell them they have 30 seconds to retreat before we demonstrate why the galaxy fears the Vorthon. Hegemony." The response came back almost instantly, broadcast on all frequencies so every ship in both fleets could hear. "Negative. This is as far as you go." Kethvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "How refreshing. It's been years since we faced an enemy with actual courage, even if they lack intelligence. Target that ship. We'll make an example of them before we destroy the rest." But as his fleet began to maneuver into attack formation, something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating or taking a defensive position, the human ship accelerated directly toward them. "What is it doing?" asked his tactical officer, Yethvor. "Is it attempting a ramming attack? Against 2,000 ships? Either they're completely insane or—" Kethvar paused, studying the approaching vessel more carefully. There was something about its movement patterns that seemed familiar, though he couldn't place where he had seen such tactics before. The UES Thunderstorm closed the distance rapidly, weaving through space with a grace that seemed impossible for something so bulky and angular. As it approached weapon range, every gun port along its hull began to glow with contained energy. "War Marshal," Yethvor said urgently, "that ship is targeting our command vessels. All ships, open fire," Kethvar commanded. "Destroy that pest." 2,000 Vorthon warships unleashed their fury at once. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and quantum torpedoes filled space with deadly light. Enough firepower to crack a planet focused on one small human vessel. The thunderstorm vanished in a brilliant explosion of light and energy. For a moment, silence filled the Vorthon fleet. Then cheers began echoing through the communication channels. The human ship was gone, vaporized by the overwhelming barrage. It had been brave but foolish. "Scan for debris," Kethvar ordered. "I want confirmation of the kill." But Yethvor was staring at his instruments with growing confusion. War Marshal, I'm not reading any wreckage. The explosion pattern doesn't match a ship destruction. Before Kethvar could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. The human ship burst out of the energy cloud, completely undamaged, moving at impossible speed toward the Vorthan formation. How is that possible? Demanded Kethvar. Our sensors showed direct hits. The ship seems to have some kind of advanced defensive system, Yethvor reported. It's not just shields, sir. It's like the energy attacks passed right through it. The UES Thunderstorm opened fire. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ship didn't fire energy beams or plasma bolts like conventional warships. Instead, it launched something completely different. Solid projectiles, streaked out from the Thunderstorm's gun ports, moving at incredible speed. But these weren't simple bullets or missiles. They were relativistic kill vehicles, chunks of dense metal accelerated to near light speed by magnetic fields. The first salvo hit 3 Vorthon cruisers simultaneously. The kinetic impact was devastating. Shields meant to stop energy weapons were useless against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The projectiles punched through armor, through bulkheads, through entire ships like they were made of paper. 3 enemy vessels exploded in brilliant fireballs. Impossible! Kethvar snarled. Those were heavily armored ships with military-grade shields. But the human vessel wasn't finished. As the Vorthan fleet tried to reorganize and target it, the Thunderstorm began demonstrating the full depth of human military technology. Guided munitions erupted from hidden launchers, each one thinking and adapting as it flew toward its target. When Vorthan point defenses destroyed one missile, its fragments turned into smaller seekers that continued the attack from different angles. Directed energy weapons, more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen, carved through enemy formations like surgical knives. Instead of the crude energy beams favored by most species, the humans used coherent particle streams that could burn through any known material. But it wasn't just the weapons that shocked the Vorthans. It was how the human captain used them. Captain Hyunki, still aboard the alien flagship, watched the battle unfold through the tactical displays. The bridge around him was in chaos as alien officers tried to understand what they were seeing. He's not fighting like any species we know, Admiral Veltara whispered, her feathers trembling with awe and terror. Look at those movement patterns, those targeting priorities. The UES Thunderstorm didn't engage the Vorthon fleet randomly or try to overwhelm them with firepower. Instead, it moved through their formation like a surgeon performing an operation, cutting precisely at the most vulnerable points. First, it targeted communication ships, severing the links between fleet elements. Then it struck at ammunition, carriers and fuel depots, causing chain reactions that destroyed multiple vessels at once. Command ships fell next, their destruction throwing entire formations into confusion. It's like watching a master chess player, General Morquette observed, his crystalline body resonating with nervous energy. Every move serves multiple purposes. Lieutenant Sunja, monitoring the communication channels, provided a running commentary. The Thunderstorm is using classic human pack hunting tactics. Isolate the enemy, disrupt their coordination, then destroy them piece by piece. Pack hunting? Asked Captain Yilmoth. An ancient strategy from Earth, Sunja explained. When early humans hunted creatures much larger than themselves, they learned to work as a coordinated group, cut the prey off from its herd, confuse it, tire it out, then strike at the vital points. War Marshal Kethvar was beginning to understand that he faced something completely outside his experience. The human ship moved like it could predict his tactics before he gave the orders. Every formation change, every strategic maneuver seemed anticipated and countered before it could take effect. How do they know our battle doctrine? He demanded. This is impossible. Yethvor, studying the enemy's movement patterns, made a disturbing discovery. War Marshal, I think they've been analyzing our tactics for the entire engagement. Every time we change formation, they adapt faster than our own ships can respond. Then we fight differently. Break formation. All ships. Independent action. But that command sealed the Vorthan fleet's fate. The moment they abandoned coordinated tactics, they became individual targets for a predator that had evolved to hunt in groups. The Thunderstorm began moving through the scattered enemy ships like death itself. No longer constrained by the need to break formations, it could focus on pure destruction. Ship after ship exploded under its precise fire. Kethvar watched his fleet dissolve around him, 2,000 vessels reduced to burning wreckage by a single enemy ship. His communications channels filled with screams, desperate pleas for help, and the death cries of his commanders. "War Marshal!" Yethvor shouted over the chaos. "We've lost 60% of the fleet. The humans are targeting our engines and weapons specifically. They're not trying to kill our crews, they're trying to disable us." For a moment, Kethvar felt a spark of hope. If the humans wanted prisoners instead of corpses, perhaps they could negotiate. That hope died when he watched the thunderstorms. Next move. The human ship approached a disabled Vorthan cruiser, one that had lost weapons and engines but still had life support. Instead of boarding or demanding surrender, it fired a single shot through the ship's reactor. The explosion was visible across the battlefield. They're not taking prisoners, Kethvar realized with growing horror. They're making sure nothing survives. On the alien flagship, Captain Yun-Ki stood calmly beside the tactical display, watching his ship systematically dismantle the most powerful military force in galactic history. The alien commanders stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. "Captain," Admiral Veltara whispered, "what is your ship doing to them?" Hyun-Ki looked at the display, where the thunderstorm was hunting down the last functional Vorthan vessels. "Admiral, for 10,000 years, humanity has been perfecting the art of war. We learned from every battle, every defeat, every victory. We studied every form of combat from single duels to planetary invasions." He gestured toward the screen where another enemy ship exploded. "The Vorthons fight like most galactic species. They rely on superior numbers, advanced technology, and overwhelming force. But they never learned the most important lesson of warfare." "Which is?" asked General Morquette. "That victory doesn't go to the biggest army or the most advanced weapons. It goes to the side that can adapt fastest, strike hardest, and never stop until the enemy is completely defeated." War Marshal Kethvar's flagship shuddered under multiple impacts. His shields were failing, his weapons were destroyed, and his engines were offline. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically to keep life support functioning. "Open a channel. To the human ship," he commanded. The response came immediately. Captain Hyun-Ki's voice, calm and professional. "Go ahead, War Marshal. We surrender. The Vorthan hegemony yields to Earth. We will withdraw." The battle had been raging for 8 hours. What had started as 2,000 Vorthan warships in perfect formation was now a scattered field of burning wreckage and dying screams. The UES Thunderstorm moved through the debris like a shark among minnows, its weapons never silent for more than a few seconds. On the bridge of the human vessel, Captain Hyun-Ki stood calm and focused as his crew worked with mechanical precision. There was no excitement in their voices, no bloodthirsty cheers when enemy ships exploded. They approached the destruction of the Vorthan fleet like engineers solving a complex problem. "Target acquired," reported Ensign Dong-min from the weapons console. "Vorthan destroyer, disabled engines, attempting to escape on auxiliary power." "Distance?" asked Chief Mi-young from navigation. 40,000 kilometers and closing. Solution plotted. "Firing sequence ready." "Fire," ordered Captain Hyun-Ki. A railgun projectile streaked across space at relativistic speed. The Vorthan destroyer vanished in a brief flash of light and expanding plasma. Debris scattered in all directions, already cooling in the vacuum of space. "Confirmed kill," Dong-min reported. "Searching for next target." Lieutenant Jae-won looked up from his communication station. "Captain, we're receiving multiple surrender requests from surviving Vorthan ships. They're asking for terms." "Denied," Hyun-Ki replied without hesitation. "Continue the attack." "Sir, some of them are broadcasting that they have wounded aboard requesting medical evacuation. They should have thought of that before they threatened genocide against 17 civilizations. No mercy, no prisoners, no survivors." The alien commanders on the coalition flagship watched in stunned horror as humanity's doctrine of total war played out before them. This wasn't just a military engagement, it was systematic extermination. Admiral Veltara gripped the railing of her observation deck as another group of Vorthan ships died under the thunderstorm's guns. "Lieutenant Sunja, I don't understand. Your people seem so civilized. How can you wage war like this?" Sunja, who had been quietly monitoring the tactical displays, turned to face the alien officers. Her expression was patient, but firm. "Admiral, you're making the same mistake everyone makes about humans. You think we're violent because we enjoy war. That's not true. Then why? Asked General Morquette, his crystalline body chiming with distress. Why show no mercy to defeated enemies? Because mercy in war is often cruelty in peace, Sunja replied. If we let the Vorthons survive today, how many innocent civilizations will they destroy tomorrow? How many worlds will burn because we chose to be merciful to genocidal conquerors? Captain Yilmoth's aquatic suit bubbled nervously. But surely, some of those ships contain non-combatants, support personnel, maybe even prisoners from conquered worlds? Sunja's expression softened slightly. Captain, do you think this is easy for us? Do you think we take pleasure in what we're doing? She gestured toward the tactical display where the Thunderstorm was methodically hunting down the last operational Vorthan vessels. Every human child learns about the wars of our history. We know what happens when aggressors are allowed to escape and regroup. We learned that lesson from conflicts that killed hundreds of millions of our own people. So you choose to be ruthless? Admiral Veltara asked quietly. We choose to be effective, Sunja corrected. The Vorthon hegemony has conquered 47 star systems. They've enslaved entire species, destroyed civilizations that had existed for millennia, committed genocides on a galactic scale. Today, that ends permanently. War Marshal Kethvar's flagship Death's Crown drifted powerless among the debris of his fleet. The massive vessel that had struck terror into the hearts of countless worlds was now just another piece of wreckage waiting to be destroyed. On the bridge, emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as the crew worked to keep life support functioning. Kethvar sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical displays that showed his complete defeat. Of 2,000 ships, fewer than 50 remained functional, and those were being hunted down one by one. War Marshal, his communications officer, Rethnall reported, "We're receiving a direct transmission from the human ship. Put it through." Captain Hyun Ki's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the Thunderstorm's bridge continued its calm, efficient work of destruction. War Marshal Kethvar, the human captain said formally, "I'm contacting you to give you one final opportunity to understand what you're facing." Kethvar leaned forward in his chair. "Are you offering terms of surrender?" "No, I'm offering you knowledge. In your long career of conquest, you've fought many species. Pacifist civilizations, warrior cultures, advanced technological societies. Tell me, what did they all have in common?" Despite everything, Kethvar found himself answering. "They all fell before Vorthan might." "No," Hyun Ki replied. "They all fought to win. Every species you've conquered believed that victory meant defeating the enemy army, capturing territory, forcing a favorable peace treaty. They fought wars with political objectives." The human captain paused as weapon fire from his ship destroyed another Vorthon cruiser in the background. Humans learned long ago that there's a difference between fighting to win and fighting to survive. When our species faces extinction, we don't fight for territory or resources or political advantage. We fight to eliminate the threat completely and permanently. Kethvar felt ice forming in his veins. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the Vorthon hegemony ends today. Not just your fleet. Not just your expansion plans. Your entire civilization will be removed from the galaxy to ensure it can never threaten another innocent world." The channel closed. Kethvar stared at the blank screen in growing horror. The human wasn't just destroying his fleet. This was a planned campaign. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of what had happened spread faster than any ship could travel, carried by quantum communication networks that connected every civilized world. The Vorthon hegemony was gone. Not defeated, not weakened, but completely erased from existence. Their homeworlds were empty, their fleets destroyed, their entire civilization removed as if it had never existed. And it had been done by a single human ship. Captain Hyun Ki sat in his ready room aboard the UES Thunderstorm, reviewing reports from across known space. The ship was no longer alone. Admiral Bo-Ra had sent a small fleet to help with the aftermath, but everyone understood that the Thunderstorm remained the most important vessel in the galaxy. Commander Su-Jin entered the room carrying a data pad, filled with diplomatic messages. She was new to the ship, sent by Earth Command to help handle the flood of communications from alien governments. "Captain, we have 17 formal requests for military alliance from species that previously ignored. our existence, she reported. The Galactic Council has offered us permanent seats on every major committee, and there are 43 requests for protection treaties. Hyun-Ki nodded without looking up from his own reports. What about the former Vorthon territories? Complete. Chaos, sir. With the hegemony gone, dozens of resistance movements are fighting for control. Some worlds are declaring independence, others are forming new alliances. There are at least 6 separate wars breaking out in the power vacuum. And our orders. Admiral Bo-Ra wants us to establish patrol routes through the most critical systems. Not to take control, but to make sure no new aggressive empires fill the void left by the Vorthons. Lieutenant Sunja entered the ready room carrying her own stack of reports. As the ship's tactical officer, she had been analyzing the political changes across the galaxy. Captain, we're seeing some interesting patterns in the intelligence data. The Andromedans have canceled their planned expansion into the Outer Rim. The Core World Alliance has suddenly become very interested in peaceful trade negotiations. Even the pirate clans are avoiding shipping lanes anywhere near human patrol routes. Hyun-Ki finally looked up from his work. They're afraid of us. Yes, sir. The destruction of the Vorthon fleet has convinced everyone that humans are the new dominant military power in the galaxy. Some species are calling us the Death Dealers. Others use the term planet killers. And how do you feel about that, Lieutenant? Sunja considered the question carefully. Sir, fear can be a useful tool for maintaining peace, but it's not a foundation for lasting cooperation. Eventually, someone will test us again. 3 weeks later, that test came. The UES Thunderstorm was patrolling the border between former Vorthon space and the neutral zone when they received a distress call. A convoy of refugee ships was under attack by raiders who had emerged from the chaos following the hegemony's collapse. Captain, reported Lieutenant J-Wan from Communications, we're receiving an emergency transmission from a civilian transport. They're requesting immediate assistance. Put it through. The view screen showed the bridge of a damaged cargo ship. The captain was an elderly Altarian whose feathers were singed from fire damage. Human vessel, this is Captain Nelvara of the Refugee Transport Safe Harbor. We are under attack by raiders flying captured Vorthon ships. They're demanding we surrender our passengers for slave labor. We have 15,000 civilians aboard, including children. Hyun-Ki stood immediately. How many raider ships? 12 vessels, sir. They outgun us completely. We can't fight them, and our engines are too damaged to run. Understood, Captain Nelvara. Help is on the way. Keep your people calm. The thunderstorm changed course and accelerated toward the battle. When they arrived, they found a scene that made even the experienced crew angry. The raiders were using captured Vorthon technology to terrorize defenseless civilian ships. Captain, reported Ensign Dong Min from Weapons. The raiders are firing on evacuation pods. They're trying to kill anyone who tries to escape. Hyun-Ki's expression hardened. All stations, battle alert. These raiders just made the biggest mistake of their lives. The engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The raiders, drunk on their stolen power and confident that no one would challenge them, never had a chance. The thunderstorm destroyed all 12 ships without taking a single hit in return. But this time, something was different. As the last raider ship exploded, Captain Hyun-Ki opened a channel to the refugee convoy. Captain Nelvara, this is Captain Hyun-Ki. The threat has been eliminated. Do you require medical assistance for your injured? Yes, sir. We have many wounded, and our medical supplies are running low. We're sending over medical teams and emergency supplies. My crew will help repair your engine so you can reach safety. For the next 6 hours, the crew of the Thunderstorm worked alongside the refugees, providing medical care and technical assistance. It was the first time most of the aliens had seen humans up close, and they were surprised by what they found. These weren't the cold, ruthless warriors they had expected. The human medical teams were gentle with injured children. The engineers patiently taught alien technicians how to repair their ships. The soldiers shared their rations with hungry families. Captain Nelvara found herself talking with Lieutenant Sunja as they watched human engineers work on the damaged engines. I don't understand, the Altarian captain said quietly. We've heard the stories about what happened to the Vorthons. Your people showed no mercy, took no prisoners. But here you are, risking your lives to save strangers. Sunja smiled sadly. Captain, there's something about humans that the galaxy doesn't understand yet. We're not warriors because we love war. We're warriors because we love peace. How can that be? Because we learned long ago that sometimes the only way to protect innocent people is to be absolutely terrifying to those who would hurt them. The Vorthons chose genocide. These raiders chose to attack civilians. They made themselves our enemies by their own actions. Sunja gestured toward a human medic who was carefully treating a wounded alien child. But you and your people? You're trying to save lives, protect families, find safety for those who can't protect themselves. That makes you exactly the kind of people we swore to defend. 6 months later, the UES Thunderstorm had become something unprecedented in galactic history. It was still the most feared warship in known space, but it was also a symbol of protection for the innocent. Captain Hyun-ki stood on his bridge, reading the latest reports from across the galaxy. Piracy was down by 90%. Border conflicts had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. Trade was flourishing as merchants felt safe to travel previously dangerous routes. "Captain," reported Chief Mi-young from navigation, "we're approaching the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Veltara has requested a meeting." The Altarian admiral met them at the same space station where they had first learned about the Vorthon threat. But now, instead of desperate pleas for help, she brought news of hope. "Captain Hyun-ki," she said as they walked through the station's corridors, "I wanted to thank you personally. The security patrols you've established have allowed our people to rebuild. Former Vorthon slave worlds are declaring their independence. Entire species that were thought extinct are emerging from hiding." "That's good to hear, Admiral. But more than that, you've given us something we never had before. For the first time in galactic history, aggressive civilizations think twice before attacking their neighbors. They know that somewhere out there, the thunderstorm is watching." They reached an observation deck that looked out over the bustling space station. Ships from dozens of species came and went peacefully, trading goods and sharing technology. The galaxy asked why humanity sent just one ship. Admiral Veltara said quietly, "Now we understand. You didn't send one ship because you underestimated the threat. You sent one ship because you knew it was enough." Captain Hyun-ki nodded, watching a group of alien children playing in the station's park. Their parents felt safe enough to let them run and laugh without fear. "Admiral, my people learned something important during our long history of warfare. The greatest victory isn't destroying your enemies. It's making war so costly and terrible that no one wants to fight anymore. And if someone does want to fight," Hyun-ki's expression grew serious, "then they discover why the galaxy is better off peaceful." The UES Thunderstorm departed the station the next day, beginning another patrol through sectors that had once been battlegrounds. Its guns were silent, its crew alert but calm. Across the galaxy, potential aggressors watched the reports of the human ship's movements and made the smart choice. They chose diplomacy over warfare, trade over conquest, cooperation over conflict. The galaxy had learned why humanity sent just one ship. And in learning that lesson, they had found something that had eluded them for millennia: lasting peace, through absolute strength. The thunderstorm sailed on through the stars, carrying with it the promise that as long as humans watched the void, the innocent would sleep safely.